Chapter 39. Night Rain. "Mother of God!" Kat shrieked. She ran out of the room. "Dad! Mum! Come quickly!" When I talk to people about something I've found out, they don't listen. When Kat does, everybody listens. Within 5 minutes, everybody was half dressed and out the door into the driving rain. Dad brought 2 torches and his massive bunch of work keys. We ran down the road. Rashid, Aunt Gloria, Mum, Dad, Kat and I, with coats flapping, umbrellas blowing, inside out, hearts pounding, hopes rising, my hand shaking itself out. Dad's hand trembled as he undid the padlock. A great howl of wind moaned its way round the big dark tower above us. Mum held a torch. We crossed a muddy strip of grass and peeled around the back of the building to the entrance. Another key, another shaken hand. "Hurry! Hurry!" screamed Aunt Gloria, almost grabbing the keys off Dad. We were in, the doors closing behind us. Dad played the torch around the lobby. It stank like bad toilets and dead animals. Another key to a room, set back in the darkness. It was like an engine room. Pipes, boilers, cables, fuse boxes. It was silent like a morgue. The torch picked out what Dad was looking for, a cupboard. He unlocked that with a 4th key. There was a switch. He turned it on, then turned on a row of switches by the door. Light. The tower block lobby came alive. Yet another door to the stairwell, another key, more lights. "Sail him! Sail him!" we shouted. Up and up, floor after floor. Kat and I were the fastest. I knew where Salem would be. He'd be right at the top of the 24th story. By floor 15, I was rasping. Kat had half a flight ahead. I heard her moaning and whimpering, "Sail him! Sail him!" Our lungs had given out by the time we got to the top. Kat had a stitch. "Sail him!" she said. It was little more than a whisper. There were 4 doors on each floor. The first 3 we tried were locked. The 4th was ajar. I felt something scuttle past my foot in the darkness. "Sail him," Kat faltered. She grabbed my hand. It was clammy and cold, but it kept my hand from shaking itself out. "Don't go in there, Ted. I don't like it. I don't like the way it smells. Let's wait for Dad." We waited, hand in hand on the 24th story, by the open door, the door that led into darkness. It was the longest wait of my life. The theories of them all, the photos, the words on the T-shirts, the pods on the wheel were like floating strands in my brain. There were no more theories. This was the last one, the only hope. My heart thumped. My eardrums pounded. It was the sound of time. Dad came panting. He had the torch. He staggered into a dark doorway. Kat and I crept after him. "Sail him," he said. He pushed his way through another door, the torch being quivered across some grimy walls. "Sail him!" That's where we found him. He was shaking all over, just waking from sleep. He was curled up like a fetus in an empty room with an old mattress that the last people to leave the barracks had left behind in the flat. He was alive. Aunt Gloria rushed in and hurled herself down on him. "Sail him!" she sobbed. "Oh, sail him, my love, my love!" Chapter 40. After the storm. Voices, tears and reconciliations. I remember them as waves of words going back and forth, running over my head, around, past, through me. I walked to the window and pinched my nose to block out the smell of the building that Dad said was sick, and I had to agree. Somewhere pigeons cooed. They'd got in through a broken window. Cold air brushed my cheek. Somebody took me by the shoulder. It was Dad. While Mum and Aunt Gloria helped sail him to his feet and wrapped him in their coats, we looked out. The gale blew itself out. A new push of air, cool and calm, stole in. The moon appeared from behind a bank of cloud. That's when I saw it. London, from the 24th floor, lit up like frost on glass. The dome of St. Paul's was a luminous curve straight ahead. To the left was the White Eye, its motionless, a giant bicycle wheel in the sky that did not turn. And we went home. In a hoarse, shaky voice, Salem told us what had happened. He had starved for nearly 3 days. He found water in a toilet system in the flat. That's what he drank. He tried to shout from the window on the 24th floor. Nobody heard. Nobody looked up. He tried to get into other flats. They were all locked. He tried to get out of the stairwell. The door at the bottom was bolted. He tried to break out of the building 1,001 ways, but he couldn't. He was trapped. All he could do was wait and hope. He sat where there was a light and a view in the empty flat on the 24th floor. He slept on the abandoned mattress despite its dank smell. He had half a Mars bar left from his outing with Marcus, a disposable camera, the clothes he had on nothing. Then our doctor came to check him over. He pronounced him shocked but strong. He said how brave Salem would have been to have endured what he'd been through, and prescribed a bowl of soup and bed. Dad phoned the police and told them how we'd found him. The next day, Aunt Gloria, Rashid and Salem talked quietly together all morning in the living room. I don't know what they said, but afterwards Aunt Gloria announced that Salem wanted to give New York a trial period of 6 months. This time it was his wish, she said, not just hers. Rashid left. He thanked us for all what we've done. He said he'd never forget how he and Salem would visit us often. He promised. When Salem came home from the holidays, as he walked through the front door in our postage stamp front garden, he turned and looked at Aunt Glory, who stood beside me. Aunt Glory's hand fastened itself hard on my shoulder. "Gloria," he said. "Rashid," she said. A moment passed. Rashid shrugged. His eyes were like Salem, and I realised dark lozenges. "Enjoy the big apple," he said. The corner of his lips went up very slightly. He waved a hand. "We'll try, Rashid," she said. "Goodbye." "Goodbye." His hands dropped to his side. His shoulders went down and he turned away and walked down Rivington Street. My head went off to the side as I watched him recede, and he looked back one last time before disappearing around the corner. After Rashid left, Salem asked to see Kat and me. He was plumped up on the pillows on the sofa. His faint moustache had grown back more noticeably than before. I remembered what he'd said about grass and lawnmowers. He wanted to know everything. How we'd worked it out. He smiled at each bit of the story, especially the bit about the motorcycle show. Kat told him most of it. When she got to the end, she said, "Salem, I just have to face it. My weirdo brother's a genius." Salem looked at me. "You're unique, all right, Ted. Only it's got nothing to do with nerds and geeks. It's short for unique." Kat and Salem laughed at that, and so did I. And that was when I knew I had 5 friends now. Not 3, Mum, Dad, Mr. Shepherd, Kat and Salem, and I was pleased. "What's the worst thing about being trapped in that block, Salem?" Kat said. Salem shrank back into the pillows. "Ugh, you really want to know?" "Yes, we do." "The noises, I guess. The noises at night. I'd lie on the mattress and hear the wind, moaning round the towers, up, down, everywhere. Then the patters and the sighs started, odd gurgles, noises I didn't understand. I couldn't place them, scuttles, creatures scooting along the walls, rats, cockroaches, the flaps of wings, bats or birds. I lay in the dark, I put my jacket over my head, I buried my ears under my arms, but I could hear them still. Then something landed on my cheek. Just a scrape. I sat up and dreamed my head off. Okay, Kat said, blocking her ears. "Sorry I asked." "It wasn't all bad," Salem said. "No? During the day it was okay. I watched the weather. I was close to the cloud. There was this thunderstorm. I saw lightning flicker over London, but these dark sheets of rain moved in, and then the sun came out. I took photos. Buildings and sky. One half of London was dark and the other light and sunny. The river was in both halves, a thin silver line, and what divided it was the eye, big and white. I took a photo. Kat, the last one on the disposable camera. It's the best one I've ever taken. That afternoon, Kat and I had a final visit from Detective Inspector Pierce. Dad and Mum sat there and listened while Kat told her everything that we'd thought and done. Detective Inspector Pierce's lip turned upwards at the end. She looked at me. "Some brain," she said. She looked at Kat. "Some action," she said. "You two have everything it takes to make first-class police detectives." "Dunno," Kat said. "Dubious. I found fancy the fashion trade." I told her I was destined for the Met Office. "Pity," she sighed. "My colleagues say I'm a good detective. You have to be if you're a woman in the force. But you two have taught me something. Youngsters are more worth listening to than a legion of adults. And if I weren't for you two, Salem might still be trapped in that tower block, and by now the concrete crushers would have done their worst. I dread to think." She shook her head. "We looked high and low, north and south, and all along, and he was just right round the corner." Then Dad said, "I just don't understand how Salem got himself locked in like that. I had a security guard posted at the gate, and I checked each floor one by one to make sure it was empty." It was a few phone calls later before we knew what had happened. Salem said that he'd walked past the block, he'd noticed the gate to the boarded-up fence ajar. It was a magnet. He thought of the 24 floors, the views that would no longer exist, his disposable camera. It'd only be a few minutes. He'd promised himself. He'd slipped in. Nobody was about. He found the main entrance and the door to the stairwell. He cruised up the stairs. Meanwhile, Dad had been checking each floor was vacated, the last tenants all gone. He posted his colleague, Jackie Winter, as a guard on the outer gate while he'd gone up, using the stairs until he got to the top. "You rang me, Faith, to say that Salem had gone missing, just as I was out on the 24th floor, in the vacated flat. I remember rushing out. I left the door to the flat unlocked. It was no big deal, since the building would be secure from below. To save time, I took the lift back down to the lobby, just as Salem was coming up the stairs, I guess. I locked all the doors in the lobby area. I turned off the water and electricity. I went outside. I locked the main entrance. There was Jackie by the fence gate, where I'd left him. We padlocked the gate together and left." Salem swore he'd seen no sign of a guard. Jackie Winter was questioned. At first he denied having left his post, but then he broke down and admitted He'd nipped to the newsagent's. He'd only been gone 2 minutes. He'd been dying for a smoke and had run out of fags. He lost his job. Chapter 41. The Last Turn of the Wheel. 2 days later we saw Salem and Aunt Gloria off at the airport. Salem grinned at me and shook my hand hard before they went through passport control. "Mr. Unique," he said, "I'll see you in New York." Mum and Aunt Gloria embraced in their usual embarrassing way. Dad went to kiss Aunt Gloria on the cheek but missed and kissed the air instead. Aunt Gloria gave Kat, then me, her hot, hard hug. Just as I squirmed away, she grabbed my wrist. "Here, Ted," she said. "Take these and throw them away. I don't need them any more." She thrust her cigarette holder and cigarette case at me and fanned her face as if she could no longer stand the thought of smoke. Then she smiled, and I remembered to smile back, and that was how Aunt Gloria became my sick friend. "Come on, Mum," Salem said. "We'll miss our flight." He tugged her sleeve. They waved a last goodbye. Salem looked over at me and his shoulder, and the guard checked his passport. We were eyeball to eyeball, just as we'd been when we first met. He winked. I'm not sure if I got it right, but I scrunched up one of my eyes as hard as I could. Their plane took off as a large Atlantic high asserted itself across Lundy and Fastnet. It stayed fair, with moderate winds for the duration of their flight. When we got home, Dad said he was going to spend the weekend in bed. But he didn't. He began cooking eggs, whistling the Laurel and Hardy theme tune, as if the hurricane that was Aunt Gloria had never been. "I'm making my special omelette, Faith," he said. "The one you used to like when we were dating." Mum rolled her eyes but smiled at the same time. "Will I like it?" Kat asked. "If your mum does, you will," Dad said. "Because I know, and Ted knows, don't we, Ted?" I said. "Know what? Mum and Kat are like two peas in a pod. That's why they argue all the time." Mum looked at Kat. Kat shrugged. "Takes one to know one," she said. They smiled. After the omelette, which was very good to eat, Mum announced that Aunt Gloria and Rashid wanted Kat and me to have a present for what we'd done. Kat admitted to the 50 quid we'd not given back since being at the Eye. She gave Mum what was left from her over from our investigations. Mum laughed when she heard how we'd spent it. She insisted it didn't count. We could still have something else. "What? Anything?" "Within reason." I chose a weather watch. It's an amazing invention. It tells the time, but it also has an excellent compass and different modes. When you press a button, it becomes a mini barometer showing the air pressure. My weather predictions have increased in accuracy by 31.5%. Kat said she wanted a motor scooter. Mum shrieked, "Don't be ridiculous, Kat. You're too young." "Oh, Mum, you said..." "Within reason, Kat." Okay. Can I have my hair cut and coloured at Hair Flare then?" Hair Flare was where she'd gone for a consultation when she'd gone AWOL from school that day. Mum sighed. "All right, Hair Flare it is," she said. Kat came home later that day with her brown hair cut into different lengths with a long uneven fringe that kept falling into her eyes, and dirty blonde streaks like rain makes its way when it goes down a window pane. I wondered how she could see to walk. Mum's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Dad glanced up at Kat over his newspaper and disappeared behind it again. The newsprint shuddered. "Don't you like it?" Kat said, her voice going upwards. My head went off to one side. "Kat," I said. "What?" I could have said she looked like a sheepdog and that she'd forgotten how to bark, but I didn't. "It's a real cool haircut, Kat." Through the strands of her fringe, she smiled. My third lie. I wrote it down in my new silver folder called My Lies. It's in my desk drawer, and it's got a lot of growing to do. Just as planned, the barracks got knocked down. Our neighbourhood looked odd at first, as if a giant alien presence had been beamed to another planet, leaving behind naked sky. Then I realised, since it's gone, there's been a different view. When you walk down our street, you just turn onto the main road. For an instant, you see half the eye. You almost have to pinch yourself. It looks unreal, as in Cat's Dream. It's moving so slowly you hardly know. The capsules of glass and still glitter. The white spokes wobble in the sun's glare, and always Salem's silhouette is there, hovering in the centre, waving to us just as he did that day. Salem or no Salem, Salem supreme. It is at that moment he boarded. 11:32 a.m., 24th of May, floats on in a time warp somewhere in my brain. The end.